This should be a fun one. First of all, the Wolves are playing fantastic right now, and it's really fun basketball. Second of all, we have our friend Steve Terry on from TSR Injury Law. You know the face. He's Naz Reid's, I think, best friend now. I think we can say that.
Clearly, without a doubt, best buddies. Just so we're clear. I was just hanging out with him in Miami. I got stories.
I love it. We're going to hear some road stories from Steve Terry. He's going to tell us about the TSR Injury Law giveaway. But let's start here. Well, first of all, I actually do have some furniture I got to move before we get to the actual basketball. First of all, this is TalkNorth.com. Best way to listen to this show or any show you like at the network. Please subscribe to your favorite podcast app. It's free. It's the easiest way to listen. We're coming to you through Aquarius Home Services Studio. We're presented to you by Giggly THC Beverages, GIGLI.com. And we'll tell you about all the other sponsors right now. But Steve, just go ahead and tell us about your giveaway first.
Well, I appreciate it. TSR Injury Law and the Minnesota Timberwolves are proud partners. And one thing we wanted to do is give away some Nas merch. And, as we're working with Nas, he's a super good guy, which I'll kind of come up with later. But basically what we're doing is if you go to tsrinjurylaw.com, go to our website, there is a red box on the front page, and it's a giveaway. You click on that and you put in your information. And what we're giving away is 4 lower level tickets to the April 13th Jazz game, a signed Nas jersey. It is real because I saw him sign it. And in addition, pregame, you'll sit courtside and kind of see, how the players work out and what have you. So it's kind of a Timberwolves package that has been put together, and it's super exciting. And basically, it's nice and easy to set up. You go to the website, again, tsrinjurylaw.com, click the red box, enter your information. On the bottom, there is a little box that you can click, and if you check that off, then we will continue to send you other Timberwolves Nas Reid items in the future, so that way you don't need to keep doing it, but it's something that we're going to keep doing in the future, and we're super excited to be working with the Timberwolves on this one and Nas Reid.
Beautiful, and congratulations on having all that come to fruition. It's so cool to see Nas featured on your commercials. It's been a blast. One other piece of business for TalkNorth.com, we've added Mark Rosen to our stable of superstars. And March 26th, 7 p.m., Parlay Kitchen and Bar, downtown Minneapolis. That's the downstairs area on Union Rooftop, right downtown. Russo, Jon Krawczynski, Lavelle Neal III, Mark Rosen, and myself are going to be the panel for the first Talk North Sports Report live show. We'd love to see Steve Terry and the TSR people there. If they want to come down, it's going to be a blast. We're really lucky to have Mark working with us now. He's going to do his own show. He's going to host this show, which right now is planned to be a quarterly show. We'll see how that goes. But big move for TalkNorth.com. It's going to be a lot of fun. Please come down and see us. All right. This is the Jon Krawczynski Show. We're actually going to let Jon talk now. Jon, just start off really big picture. Where do you see this team right now?
Yeah, the team is rolling right now. It's been kind of a major shift in gears ever since Julius Randle came back to the lineup, which is unexpected, I would say, when you think about where they were at the start of the season and really for the first couple of months, and they were just kind of languishing and trying to figure things out. And now I went to Denver on Wednesday and they thumped the Nuggets on their home floor. And I really just do think that something has clicked with the team around Julius Randle and Julius Randle himself that is sort of opening up a new level of offensive production that just wasn't there before. And it's a really confident bunch. I have not seen the vibes in the locker room better than they are right now. And there's just a lot of confidence that they have solved a lot of the issues that were plaguing them all season long, and that they're kind of ready to take off here. Now they just need some teams ahead of them to lose, because every time they win, the Warriors win, the Rockets win, the Grizzlies win. So they're having a little hard trouble of making up some ground, but just the quality of play and everything has been great.
Well, Steve, you've been with the team on the road. What's your view of the vibe?
Vibe is great, but I also helped being in Miami. Jon, I noticed you didn't make the Miami trip. I mean, I can't even believe it. You got to have better planners on that one. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. We had gone to Miami a couple of years ago. Do you remember when D'Lo blocked the last shot?
Yeah.
So we were at that game, and it was more like disbelief that we won. This one, we're there, and even though, I mean, we were up most of the game, and then they turned it over like 3 times in 40 seconds, and Finch was about lost his mind, and but as the crowd for the Wolves, we're like, oh, we got this. And so it was just like, no, we're confident. And Miami also was like, oh man, we don't have this. So it was kind of, because, Miami's a cocky group. They're like, oh, championships, and we're like, okay, well, one time we won the Western Conference Final. So we, normally we don't have a lot to talk about, but the vibe in the arena was reversed, which was kind of nice to be on the positive receiving end. And I will also say that it's just funny with the discourse on Julius Randle and obviously and DiVincenzo. It's like, it's like, oh, Cat, no one liked Cat when he was here, and then when we trade him, and now all of a sudden he's like, he's the best player ever. Why did we trade him? We're crazy, and I don't know. It's like you forget that they're human, and they have to, get their kids situated, and they have to find a place to live, and like they're not, Dante's not going to come out and start hitting, threes from Lake Minnetonka, as Grady would say, right away. But now, you give them a month or two, and you can start to see that it's blending, and it's noticeable on the court and also off the court. I mean, just seeing them in the the hotel lobby or around the pool, which is kind of interesting with all the families and stuff, which is another story. But anyway, yeah, the vibe is great. And
Jon, take us inside that, because listen, we all knew that Julius Randle was over dribbling and taking too long to make decisions. And it was a problem, Then all of a sudden, it wasn't so much of a problem. Then he comes back from the injury, and now it's a bonus. Now it's a plus that when he goes in the lane, he's going to make a quick decision. He's going to make an accurate pass, or he's going to get his own shot. How did they get him to this point?
Yeah, I think Julius himself deserves a lot of credit for it, because there was sort of, I would say, mixed messaging to Julius early on when he first arrived. He comes in with an all-star, all-NBA resume. He was the hub and focal point with the Knicks. And I do think that there were people both, in the locker room, coaching staff, trying to integrate him into things. And they kind of said, hey, Julius, just come in and be you. Just, we will work around you. And I think that sent a message early on to Julius, and he absorbed that as, okay, I've got to be the guy who was with the Knicks, who was like the scorer, who was the guy who just, who occupied all of the possession, ground down the defense and got my shot and got us going. That's what he did with the Knicks, essentially before Jalen Brunson arrived and he got injured. And so I think that too many people were being too polite almost to Julius early on and just saying, yep, you're the guy. Like, we will work around you. And really what was clear is that both sides had to compromise some of the things that they wanted to do to make this work. And I think the time away with the groin injury for Julius was important in terms of he did watch Naz Reid come in and operate at that power forward or at the center spot and just go make quick decisions, quick passes, quick shots, drive, whatever you were doing, do it fast, and look how that opens things up for everyone else. And so it started a little bit right before he was injured, but then when he's come back as much more of a decision maker, playmaker, facilitator type of a player. And so now you're seeing, instead of 4 other guys kind of just standing around and watching either him or Anthony Edwards go to work in isolation, now you're seeing them all move around. And it's not just like passing and moving the ball that way, but it's also moving without the ball, cutting to the basket, setting screens, relocating around the perimeter while Julius drives, and he's finding people. And so he came back with a different kind of mentality in terms of, I'm not going to look for my shot first. I'm going to look to get others involved. And that's made just a huge difference in terms of the quality of shots they're getting, the success they're having. And then you're seeing times in the Denver game where they're not doubling him and he does have single coverage, and then he can go to work and get buckets. And so it's just being a little more adaptable, a little more malleable to whatever the game is providing, instead of kind of being more stuck in the ways that he was used to doing things. And so I think it's, a lot of that is Randle just recognizing what is needed and delivering it.
How sometimes when at a job or whatever situation is, and you jump in and you're doing the best you can, and you're told things or you see things, but it's just not quite clicking. And then you have an opportunity, here, the groin injury kind of changed the season actually. And then you're on the sidelines, and you know what you remember when you're on the court, but now you're back on the bench and you're watching it. And then it starts to click, because now you're not in the war, you're kind of looking at it. And then when you go back in, you're like, oh, and now it's more second nature. And that seems to be what's happening. And also, I think his shoulder, maybe, he was coming off that shoulder injury. And I think that maybe also has gotten stronger and better, because he is going down low and just manhandling people, which is kind of what we wanted to see.
No doubt.
Yeah, no, that it's a great point, because I do think that we underestimated exactly where he was from a health standpoint coming into the season. Now, I don't think this was a case of, you remember a couple of years ago when Rudy first came here and he got off to the slow start, and then it was like, well, yeah, he was actually really banged up from the World Championships and he wasn't really healthy. I don't think that's the case with Julius this time, but I do think that he had missed a ton of basketball with that shoulder injury, and he had shoulder surgery. And so he hadn't been able to do as much over the summer as he normally does. And I just don't think that he was in the best shape. And also just, he was really rusty. And so I thought that he would be able to hit the ground running a little bit better at the start of the season. But I think it's clear now that he was still really working to get feel, rhythm back from, he had been off since early January the previous season. That's a long, long time. And so I do think it took him, some time to just get that feel back. And that's a good point. And now he looks like he is much more sure of himself from a physical standpoint and from just a decision-making basketball playing standpoint as well.
All right. I got to tell you about Giggly THC Beverages. Giggly is also a sponsor of the Talk North Sports Report live show, which will be March 26th, 7 p.m. Pineapple Mojito, Blood Orange Margarita, Raspberry Ginger Mule, Blueberry Lemonade. They have teas, raspberry tea. They have Arnold Palmer's. They have raspberry tea. They have seltzers that are lower dosage. This stuff is great. My wife and I have both been drinking it. I favor the cocktails. She favors the teas. We both like the seltzers. They're bold flavors. There's no aftertaste. It's very few ingredients. It's healthy. It's a local Minnesota business. You can find it at your local liquor store. You can find it at all Quick Trips across Minnesota. You can also go to giggly.com, GIGLI.com, and order, and they will ship it to you. It's real fruit juice. It's all natural. They have very affordable, and they're low calorie on top of it. This is the alternative to, you want to drink midweek, but you also have to be up early for work next week. You don't want to deal with a hangover. This is that. This takes care of that. This tastes great, and you're going to feel good in the morning. It's a big deal for me because I love a cocktail, but I really can't stand the hangovers that sometimes come with them. So check out Giggly, GIGLI.com. All right. The other fascinating development this season, John, has been that Jaden McDaniels has become a much better all-around player.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really driving a lot of this as well. I mean, obviously, Julius has been great, but the problem that the Wolves had offensively through the first couple of months was that Jaden McDaniels was literally just a catch-and-shoot guy who couldn't shoot. And there was no stress that he was putting on the defense at all. You could see one of the reasons that Anthony Edwards didn't have the driving lanes that he wanted to get to the hoop was that guys could sag off of Jaden, they could sag off of Rudy, and they really could sag off of Julius as well, because he's a solid three-point shooter, but not the kind of dead eye that's going to just burn you over and over again. And so what we have seen over the last, I would say, month is that Jaden McDaniels has changed, and the Wolves have helped him change his offensive approach from catch and shoot guy who can't shoot to someone who creates off of the dribble, someone who uses his 6'11" to his advantage by getting to the paint and having that little kind of pull up fadeaway shot that just is almost impossible for any defender to block because he's so tall and his arms are so damn long. And so he's become just much more of a threat offensively because he can do more. He's catching, passes in the dunker spot and dunking. He's getting to the rim for offensive rebounds and creating second chances. And so he's just become a much more versatile offensive player. And one of the things that I thought was interesting that Chris Finch said this week is that as Rudy Gobert and Julius Randle have come back into the rotation, one of Chris Finch's top priorities is making sure that Jaden does not then become option number 4 or 5 again offensively and just stuck in the corner. What they're trying to do is make sure they continue to tap into this kind of growing offensive game. And you can tell, like, when defenses are playing against the Wolves now, there's really, not much you can do in terms of hiding one of your bad defenders, either on Jaden, on Rudy is one thing, but it's a different beast. But there's no breaks now with Jaden attacking the way that he does. And then you're also seeing Jaden shoot better from 3 because I think he's just in more of an offensive rhythm. Like he's able to be a little bit more active. He feels like he's in the flow. So now when those catch and shoot opportunities come, he's more confident in them and they're going in at a higher rate.
I think what John is trying to say is Scottie Pippen has arrived.
Hey, that's a good comp. A guy who with long arms, who can guard all over the floor, who can take people on one-on-one, and who also is a nice complementary offensive player. That's pretty good.
Maybe maybe the Ant MJ comparisons were a little premature last year, but Jaden Scottie that's ready to go right now. Let's just throw that out there. Absolutely.
Well, and people do mature at different rates. I mean, he's got a different body type, and it is what you said is absolutely true. Like it seems like last year he's just like on the perimeter, just waiting to get the pass, and then he's trying to hit the 3, and if it's not going in, he doesn't show much emotion, so he kind of has a resting bitch face, as they say, like just in general. And so you're like, is he sad? Is he mad? Like you don't really know. But now you see him smile, and you can tell that he's part of in rhythm, and then his defense gets better, and he's going to the basket. And you're right, like when he goes in and then does the fadeaway, and I mean it's very it's very Durant-like. You can't block it. I mean, literally the arms are so long, and he's just going in, and it's been a real revelation.
Hey, John, tell us about...
And the other part...
Go ahead, John.
Sorry, Jim. Yeah, the other part about it is you're totally right, Steve, in that he does not... His face never changes. But he is actually kind of low-key one of the more emotional dudes on the team.
He's intense.
And so, like, I feel like it's actually a good thing because he's the one that's sort of mixing it up with the other team. Like, he's taken on a little bit more of the Kyle Anderson, like, bleep stirrer, with getting in other guys' faces on the other team, or, throwing the ball off the backboard and trying to dunk it at the end of the game. He brings a different edge to the group, even though he looks very unemotional. He's the one that's gonna mix it up. If there's a little bit of a tussle on the court, 9 times out of 10, he's going to be in the middle of it. And I think that they need a little bit of that edge, because one thing that was not there early this season was kind of the hunger and the intensity that was so prevalent last year. And it looked like a team that was just sort of like happy with what it did the season before and just kind of assumed that things were going to work out for it. And now, like in Denver, like that looked like the team from last year that wanted to like just square you up and say, we're going to beat you and we're going to take your will. And so a lot of that attitude, I think, and that edge comes from Jaden.
John, tell us about Head Flyer Brewing.
Was just at Head Flyer Brewing on Thursday night, got home from Denver, went over there to have sort of an unofficial launch party for Crunch Time, the citrus wheat ale that we've been brewing and I've been collaborating with them on for the last couple of years now. It is a perfect time of year. Sun's out, shining. It's 70 degrees today as we're recording this on Friday. It's going to get up to 70. Get out on the patio at Head Flyer Brewing in Northeast on their big deck. Have a citrus wheat ale, Crunch Time beer, and just it's so refreshing. And we are going to have some more live shows coming up at Head Flyer. I believe March 29th is the next live show. We'll have some announcements about guests for that show and some really cool giveaways that we're going to have for that as well. So mark that on your calendar. But in the meantime, go into Head Flyer Brewing in Northeast Minneapolis, watch a Wolves game, pick up some Crunch Time beer, and just get this spring launch started with Head Flyer and Crunch Time.
Hey, you've already heard from Steve Terry. Anything new happening with TSR Injury Law? Anything we should know other than the giveaway?
Well, the snow has melted, and so what that means in our business is people now start driving crazy again. It's just unbelievable. I will say that we are working with the Shakopee Police Department to do a sober drive program, especially coming up for the holiday. So that's kind of something that we're trying to do is cover some of that. And all right, so we're always trying to proactively keep people safe, but if when despite your best efforts, if the bad driver hits you, that's when we get the call. And unfortunately, it's been busy, and we'll do the best that we can.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it, and appreciate the support of the show all these years. Also want to thank Royal Credit Union.
Boost your savings when you open a money market account at Royal Credit Union. For a limited time, you can get a $1,250 bonus when you bring $100,000 or more in new money to open a personal or business money market account. Royal's money market accounts have no monthly maintenance fee and tiered rates, so higher balances earn more. See details and open a money market account today at rcu.org/earn-more. Minimum deposit of $100,000 required to obtain bonus. Offer ends 5/24/25. Insured by NCUA.
All right, so there are so many players that are surging right now. Let's go to DiVincenzo, what he's meant for this team, John.
Yeah, and I think I'll get to DiVincenzo in a minute,
Sure.
But one thing that needs to be a kind of shout out in the Julius Randle, DiVincenzo, Rudy Gobert kind of theme is that all three guys missed extended periods of time. And all three guys have come back and looked like they were ready to go as soon as they got back on the floor. And so when you think about like the Timberwolves medical staff, their athletic trainers, Aaron Sear, those, that whole crew, I think they've done a really good job of getting these guys ready to go. And so that when they're done with their injuries, they're done with their injuries. And there's not much rust that they're showing. They look really physically ready to go. And that's what DiVincenzo has done. I mean, he is still playing on a minutes restriction, sort of with his toe injury and kind of getting over all of that and making sure that his body responds well. But you look at the way that he is playing, not only is he shooting the lights out and shooting it from deep, which is really helpful to breathe space into this offense, but he's playing great defense. I mean, in that Denver game, he made two unbelievable plays defensively in the fourth quarter as they were pulling away. One, for a defensive rebound, I mean, he jumped 4 feet in the air, it felt like, and he didn't even grab the rebound himself, but he tipped it to Mike Conley, and that ended Denver's possession. They go down and they score again, and it's 18-point lead. And then a couple possessions later, Christian Brown's going to the basket. He's driving. He's a big, athletic, hard finishing guy. And DiVincenzo comes in, just strips the ball right away from him, right at the rim, and creates a turnover, and they head back the other way. And so when you look at the two-way ability that he is bringing, and with the shooting and the defense, like it's exactly what they were seeing right before he was injured, and when it looked like they were starting to take off. And now that he's come back and done that, those 28-foot or 30-foot threes, that are kind of later in the clock are just backbreakers for a defense. And so just ideal what you would have hoped for him, even though he is still playing a little bit hurt. You can't see it out there. He's just playing with such force on both ends of the court.
Are we okay with the trade now, or are we still going to fire it? I'm often confused.
Well, this is a funny thing, Steve. Like, this, but I mean, literally at the start of the year, it was Julius Randle is terrible. Cat is the greatest player that's ever played. Fire Chris Finch. Tim Connolly is the worst GM. And now, after a very nice run, it's put a statue up for Julius. It's retired DiVincenzo's number, and it's Tim Connolly is the greatest ever and Finch is wonderful. Like the way that the emotional spectrum has been so volatile for fans this year. And I get it. There's a lot of expectations and all that stuff. It's just, I don't know that I've ever seen it swing as wildly within a season as it has, this year for Wolves Twitter.
I will say that the one thing I mean, trust me, in the beginning, I'm like, Julius, ooh, man.
Yeah,
it's been, it's been a wild ride, but it leads to a big picture question about seeding, playoff positioning, all that other stuff I want to get to here. First, though, John, tell us about True Vision Institute.
True Vision in Bloomington is the place to go. Go to truevision.com to get yourself set up for LASIK surgery, for vision correction. I actually was at Head Flyer the other day pouring some crunch time, and one of the Wolves fans came in and he went to True Vision, not for LASIK, but for another vision correction procedure that really helped him. And so it's not just LASIK at True Vision. Go to truevision.com. You set up a consultation. You go into to meet with just everyone. They bring you through a bunch of examinations. They ask you a bunch of questions. They get you to a place where they will find whatever is the right option for you. For me, it was LASIK. It's one of the best things that I've ever done. As the weather warms up and you're going to be getting outside, and wearing non-prescription sunglasses has been fantastic for me, but also just getting out, running around, jumping into the lake eventually in a couple of months. You don't want glasses or contacts really holding you back when you do that stuff. Go into True Vision. They will take care of you and set you up and really just change your life for the better, make it so much easier. So go to truevision.com and tell them the Jon Krawczynski Show sent you.
Reminder that we're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studios. We want you to hear more about Aquarius Home Services.
Scott for Aquarius Home Services, your independent authorized Kinetico dealer, bringing some spring magic to your water. Need a clear fix for your cloudy water? Ready to ditch dry, itchy skin, ugly rust stains, and spotty dishes that look like they lost a snowball fight? Schedule your free water analysis at AquariusHomeservices.com to learn how you can enjoy worry-free water and save up to 25% on a Kinetico whole home system. Aquarius, earning the right to be recommended.
And now let's get to Shepherd Goods and Lamb Chops clothing line. It's such a cool local product.
SGLambchops.com is the place to go for the best casual wear, hoodies, sweatpants, hats, t-shirts, shorts, anything that you want. You want to look good, you want to feel good, you want to be comfortable. Go to Lamb Chops Clothing, SGLambchops.com. Use the promo code JONK20 for 20% off anything at the website. And it's already really affordable, high quality stuff. Use that 20% off and you're practically stealing from Lamb Chops. When you get stuff from Lamb Chops, you can wear it lounging around the house, watching a Wolves game at night, or you can wear it out to a Wolves game. I see so much Lamb Chop stuff there, not just the Timberwolves collab, which is great, but just all of the regular Lamb Chops clothing as well. You see it at Target Center. You'll see it out in the North Loop on a Friday night when you're grabbing a drink with your friends. It's super versatile. So go to SGLambchops.com, promo code JONK20 for 20% off everything that you get at Lamb Chops.
So it's kind of fascinating. The way the NBA sells their regular season is this grand fight for playoff positioning and seeding. And of course, the easy conclusion to come to is you have to be a top 6 seed. You have to avoid the play-in game, And I'm looking at it now and going, what would be so terrible about the Wolves being a 7th seed is, of course, assuming they win the playoff round. And I don't think they would be afraid of anybody who would be the 2nd seed.
No, I don't think they'd be afraid of the 1 seed, to be honest with you, Jim. OKC's had a wonderful year. They would be a heavy favorite for sure. But I honestly think right now, the way that things shape up, I think the Lakers are the team you don't want to face if they're fully healthy.
If LeBron's healthy, yep.
Yes. Just what those two can do together and, the way that they have been playing defensively, that's the team that I think is a tougher matchup for the Wolves. But, OKC, Denver, Memphis, and Houston, I mean, absolutely. Golden State, those teams are all teams that the Wolves should feel good about their chances in a series because, You have Ant, who has had some great success in the playoffs. You have a good defense that's come together. You have depth and you have versatility. You can kind of change the way that you play to match up with opponents. And so I think it's going to be a wonderful playoffs. And I do think that the Wolves could reasonably go into almost any series confident that they can win it. Also, though, you get into, if you stay in the play-in, could they lose 1 or 2 games in a row and be bounced out? Yeah, that's a possibility as well. So, they got to win as much as they possibly can and get out of that play-in. If that would be the ideal scenario. And just so you avoid the circus of a 1 or a 2 game kind of a situation. But as long as you make it into the playoffs, whoever they play, you can say, yeah, they can beat this team.
Steve, how do you compare, you have the fan view of this, the informed fan view of this. How do you compare watching this team right now to, how you're feeling a year ago?
Well, I think, first of all, the underrated thing about True Vision is how sexy Jon is now with no glasses.
It is almost too sexy for podcasting. So that's why we're going to start putting the
wedding ring is important right now to repel
the
all
shield.
Of the attention.
Yes,
I see you at the games, Jon, and I don't want your wife to worry, but man, you're like beating them off. So like, there's just a lot of people around you because you're a superstar. Anyway,
it's embarrassing sometimes.
It's interesting. Last year the vibe was just right, and the pecking order. It was Ant and Cat, and everyone was kind of vibing. And then, I was shocked when we lost. It was like, okay. And, I think we hadn't lost 2 in a row the whole season. I mean, everything was smooth sailing. And you're just like, we have the next 5 years. And then, of course, trades happen and things are real bumpy and people show up and new players and it's Fire Finch and all this kind of stuff. So it's been an interesting season. I would say that I would much rather be playing well now than in the beginning of the season. I feel like we kind of been building momentum, and not to keep talking about Julius's groin, which is always an interesting conversation. But the fact when he was out, Rudy was out, and then you let the youngsters kind of get in because that's, Finch doesn't like to play youngsters, it seems like. And now they're actually doing well. And you have Clark and, Shannon and, and you're like, okay. So now the roster is expanding and you have a little bit of trust and we're getting momentum. And now, although the last couple games haven't been murderer's row, but I mean, the Nuggets are a real team. I know Aaron wasn't playing, but it's still a legit team, especially in Denver. I really like the vibe and the direction we're heading and to be building momentum at the end of the year. And again, these players, I think, have kind of figured out their pecking order, which sometimes, again, when you sit out and you see, like you were talking about, Nas is in there, he's starting, and you're like, oh, I see how things work. And now when they start reintegrating players, I think that we're going to go very far. I'm not worried about what the seeding is because we're going to beat everybody.
Steve, also, can you give us the fan perspective? Because I think this is my theory. And I think it's a real one, especially from the fan perspective. Like the first unexpected year of success feels like so much better than the following year when there are expectations. Because last year was a party the whole year because no one really saw it coming. You felt like there was optimism at the start of the year, but you didn't see you're going to be in the race for the number 1 seed and number 1 defense and all of these things. And it was all seemingly out of nowhere. Holy cow, this is so much fun. This is great. And now you transition out of that to, okay, made the Western Conference Finals. Now you have to take the next step. And it just seems like there is so much more angst. Every loss is a bigger deal. And there's so much more nervousness about, how are they going to fall short? That's just what it felt like to me, being, kind of trying to absorb the fan energy this season.
Well, I think you've described Minnesota fans in general, not about basketball, but I mean, football, baseball, basketball, hockey. I've been here for many, many years. But when I first showed up, I didn't really understand the Minnesota angst, and now I'm part of it because you're absolutely correct. Last year we're like, oh, we have a good team, but we were still trying to figure things out. And then they just kept winning, and we're like, oh, like it's just such a new, like, this is unbelievable, because you have 20, 30 years of just putrid, results, and so you're along for the ride. And I was not able to go. I was actually in Budapest visiting my daughter, but we had many of our law firm at Game 7 in Denver, and of course they're sending me photos and videos, which made me very upset. But anyway, and when they won that, you're like, yep, this is the year. You're just like, it's destiny, and you're just riding that wave. And it obviously ended with Dallas. But this year, before the trade, we're like, yep, now we're just going to keep going on the wave. And when the trade happened, and then it gets bouncy and rough, and that's when the mentality kicks in, like, oh, see, here we go. We can't have nice things. And, now Cat's in New York, and he's all pro. He's first ballot Hall of Fame. And, and this guy, and DiVincenzo can't hit a three, and what's happening. And you just kind of fall back into that crevice. And now we're slowly crawling out. And I think, again, like I said before, is we're heading in the right direction at the right time. But this season has not been as fun as last season. Now, of course, it'll get more fun as we get into the playoffs, and if good things happen. But I just think mentally we're just so, wide right. Okay, thanks. How do we miss that field goal?
Yeah.
Hey, Steve, tell us some road stories. That's something you get to see that John and I don't, getting to hang out with the team at the hotel.
Yeah, well, I'll just start in saying, thanks to Glenn and Becky Taylor, who, are currently paying for all this. And one cool thing we get to do is myself and some of my law partners get to go away with the team, and we, fly on their jet and stay at their hotel. And it's a gift. I don't take it for granted. And I always try to pick Miami just because I'm smart and I like to see the sun. But it is really fascinating because, you just kind of hang out in the hotel, and then, there goes Rudy Gobert with his kid, or, you see people at the pool, and it just like it's almost like you see something outside the wild, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's like Rudy, like in regular clothes with his, kid, it's just kind of surreal. But I will just say that, Jake Vernon is in charge of these trips for us. I honestly think his job is to make sure we don't die. That's what I always tell him. And he's like, oh, you're fine. But he did try to kill us. And we tried to get Jake on, but he backed out because I think he's a coward. John, you know that. We tried. I mean, I'm just putting this on the record. Yeah. I'm sorry, Jake. You had your opportunity to defend yourself, but you didn't want to show up. But Jake tried to kill me at this trip by ordering everything on the menu at a steakhouse. I have not eaten that much in probably 15 years. They had to roll me out of there in like a wheelbarrow, and I almost died from steak intoxication. I thank the Wolves for doing that, but it was a little much, and I lost control. But the other funny thing is, before the game, we showed up, and the players come out with their coaches. They each have individual coaches, and everybody was making fun of me because my pass in the commercial was so bad. So Nas would go out there with the coach. I would pass to him on the court, and he would hit around. So I had many assists, and so that was fun before the game.
I love it.
How many takes, Steve, of the commercial did you need?
All right, edit this out. Hello, bad connection. I can't hear you. Okay, let me set the record straight, all of you haters. So first of all, I'm in a suit. This is not fair, okay? So Nas shows, again, just like the coolest dude. And he's like, all right, what are we doing? I said, well, Nas, apparently they want me to throw a ball over my shoulder backwards. Alley-oop, you're going to catch it and dunk it. And he looked at me like, okay, well, we did that like 10 times, and I'm throwing it all over the gym. And I finally turned to the producers, and I go, hey, I clearly am not skilled enough to do this without looking. So how about if we do a pocket pass? And that's the one that actually made so the one where the alley-oop, I will just, don't tell anyone, but it's all editing because I just threw it up and we edited it out. But the pocket pass is me. I mean, that was some skill, we did 10 times, and Nas was kind of getting tired from jumping up and not having the ball within 20 feet of him.
Nas Reed shows up in the injury report, commercial filming.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Day.
That would be bad. Yeah. That would be bad.
I love it. And let's get a final thought from each of you. Thanks for joining us, Steve. Glad you're doing the giveaway. Glad you're doing that, the sober ride thing. That's a great thing for your company to be doing. So first, we'll start with John. Your final thought on anything you want at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's getting really exciting right now for the Wolves. And the thing that I'm just trying to kind of wrap my mind around is how far can they take this in terms of I'm not talking about the playoffs yet, but their schedule is very favorable right now. They seem to be playing with much more urgency and a much more serious mindset. And they're facing a bunch of teams that are really beatable. Now, for much of this season, their biggest problems have been against teams that are down the standings and that they don't take seriously. And so I really do think that this homestand starting Friday night against Orlando, that's a beat up team, and going through it, it's going to be kind of indicative of how far they have turned the corner, because if they can really put their foot on the gas and stack up these wins, I mean, they can get up to 10, 11 in a row without a whole lot of trouble. And they're going to need to do that, just given no one else above them is losing right now. And so I'm just looking forward to seeing how this sort of role that they are on really kind of, foments and crystallizes now that they are playing teams that they quote unquote should beat, but that they have almost no margin for error as they're trying to jockey and get out of this play-in position.
Steve?
Yeah, two things. Again, I appreciate the time to just talk a little bit about the giveaway with TSR and the Timberwolves. Just go to TSRinjurylaw.com, hit the red box, get your information in there. We'd love to see you in the lower bowl and courtside before the game and get you a Nas jersey. That'd be a lot of fun. But yeah, so I mean, one thing I like is with the young folks, and I've gotten to know Jalen Clark a little bit, and just so excited to see him get out there and get his chance to do his thing. I mean, everyone knows great defense. But, every time he hits a three, I think the fan base is like, oh, wow, we got that going too. And it's just, I think the coaches do a great job of getting these youngsters, training them up. And I'm just really excited to see the three youngsters kind of continue to grow and see how they do during the playoffs.
Yeah, Clark is a blast to talk to. He's a blast to be around. Great attitude on top of everything else he brings. So, hey, this is fun. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Reminder, March 26th, 7 p.m., Jon Krawczynski is on the All-Star panel for the Talk North Sports Report with Mark Rosen. Come out and say hello. We will have some giveaways. We will give away tickets at that event. So tell your friends, bring people out. We will have a lot of fun. Once again, thanks to Jon Krawczynski, of course. And of course, thanks to Steve Terry for everything he's done for this network and this program over the years. Gentlemen, enjoyed it. We'll do it again soon.